Welcome to What's Going On. I'm your host, Colin Jobe. We have a really good show for you tonight. Special guest, the one and only Robert Small from the Legacy Poster. Robert, I want to welcome you to What's Going On.
Yeah, nothing much, man. Thanks a lot for having me.
Good to come on. Good to come on. I know you've been doing the poster now for 18 months. And just in case people don't know who Robert is, just in case they've been living under a rock for a little while.
As long as you're saying that, not me, right? And 18 years, you said 18 months.
Not 18 months, 18 years. Yeah. Robert's been doing the Black History, the Legacy Poster for 18 years. And his poster has been in schools throughout the GTA, in fact, throughout the country.
Yeah, throughout the country, probably in Halifax, Quebec, and Ontario.
Excellent, excellent. And I've always enjoyed your poster. It's very inspirational, very insightful.
Yeah.
And
very powerful.
Very powerful.
Very powerful.
Very powerful. It's very powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you always do a fabulous job.
Oh,
seriously,
thank you.
You always do a fabulous job. Your art's, on the mark as usual.
Yeah.
And obviously you have another one for this year.
Yeah.
Who do you have in the poster this year?
Well, yeah. Well, the poster. People that I have on this poster this year are Dr. Henry Bishop. Okay. And he's the curator for the Black Historical Center in Cherrybrook, Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay.
Then we have Dr. Agnes Caliste, and she's a retired professor from St. Francis Xavier University, and she's been very instrumental in getting Black history known in that part of the country, in Halifax, in Nova Scotia. Then there's Ida Sadu, who lives here in Toronto, and she owns a bookstore entitled A Different Book List.
Oh, okay.
And she's a writer, and she's a storyteller as well. Then we have Mr. George Day, who's a professor at the University of Toronto. And last but not least, we have Bakari Lindsay, who's the co-founder of Coalition of Black Artists, and he's a dancer.
COBA.
Yeah, COBA. Yep.
Excellent, excellent. How did you decide to pick those folks?
Well, last year I focused on black millionaires and billionaires, right? Okay. So there's a part of me that wanted to do something on the other side of the pendulum. Right. So I decided to focus on people who have dedicated their lives to preserving African history. So I looked at different ways it's been preserved through dance, through storytelling, through fiction, literature, through academic work, and in Dr. Henry Bishop's case, in respect to documenting through like a historical monuments and having a center dedicated to it, right? Yeah, so it's been great. I had other positive reactions to it, and
well received.
Yeah, it's been well received, definitely. Yeah, people like it. Yeah, and the people that have been profiled on it, right? Because it kind of gives them celebrity status for a month, right?
Absolutely. So, all right. So I want you to consider me for next year.
Yeah,
I just don't want to share the bill, though.
it'll just be you, Cole. Like nobody else. Yeah. I'll put a gladiator suit on you and everything. This is Colin. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I can hardly wait to do it.
And you're 50% serious too.
I'm dead serious. Exactly. I mean, there's no ego here, no ego.
Exactly.
But you know what? It's always fantastic. Like in terms of creating a poster, where'd you get the idea from?
Yeah, well, funny enough, when I was younger, and when I say younger, I'm talking like 24, 25, right? I created these black and white prints, and with the black and white prints, I tried selling them because I wanted to pay off my student loan, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they weren't selling as much as I thought they should be, and I had asked my parents for like $250 to help me to make them. And they were constantly, every time I come home, it says, "Oh, how are those prints going? How are those prints going?" Right?
And they're on you, right?
Yeah, they're kind of on, but they're not on me because they wanted the money back. But they just wanted to find out what was happening, right? Because prior to them giving the money, there was this whole big discussion. So it was kind of like an "I told you so" type of thing, right?
I hear you.
So for me to kind of prove them wrong, right?
You followed through.
I started wondering what I could do to start selling these prints. So I said to myself, well, all the prints have a black focus on them, a theme. So why don't I just create a poster that I'll give away if somebody buys one of the prints, right? And also I'll give these posters away to get my name out there as an artist. So I thought about what to call it, the black poster, the Black History poster. Then I said, aha! Let me call it the official Black History Month poster. That's an inside joke, right?
I hear it.
Yeah. So I decided to call it that, right? And at the time I said, well, it's a catchy name, and it'll get. And at the time, people were asking me what what month is Black History Month, so I thought of it as a good way of informing people, because if you pass by and you see a poster that says the official Black History Month poster, the first question you're going to ask is, when's Black History Month, right? You know, so that's what I did at the time, and the rest is history, right?
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. Like I said, you always do a fine job.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, when we talk about Black History Month, people always say, you know, they always say, you know, do we need it? What's your take on that? Obviously,
well, it's kind of like asking if you need Christmas, right? You know, because you're going to get presents, so why are you complaining, right? You know, it's like, you know, so here, like, you have 28 days that are dedicated to learning, to getting people, one, to learn about your history, two, you learning about your history, three, your children learning about your history, and then you're asking why do you need it, right? Like,
I know, because people, I hear it all the time, and well, what's the big deal? We have all kinds of months.
Well, yeah, right? That's exactly it, you know. But I think the one thing that's happened and causes people to think to ask that question, it's really that our self-esteem has taken such a battering, right? You know, that we don't really, even when we're provided with a venue to save ourselves, really, right? And to uplift ourselves, like, we suspect that something's going to go wrong, right? You know, okay, we have
self-sabotage.
Yeah, we have 28 days, but we don't have 31, so we need 3 more days, right? You know, like, they're complaining about 3 more days, but what can't you do in 28? That you need an extra 3,
actually,
right?
this year's not too bad. I got 29 days.
Yeah, 29, so 2. Yeah, exactly. So that's what kills me about the discussion about Black History Month and some of the issues with it. That here you have a time where you have corporations that would sponsor your events, you know, people that would come to your events, you know, so you've been basically given a plateau to say whatever you want for a good 28 days. You know, no other ethnic group has that, but yet you question about having it, right? But you should really look at the opportunities, as I have done, and
see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, see it as an opportunity. So, you know, with respect to myself, I do this full time. You know, I just went to Nova Scotia, and I went to San Francisco Xavier University. I went to 4 schools in Cape Breton. You know, they paid for my car, they paid for my hotel.
Sounds like a bad deal.
Yeah, so I need Black History Month. I need right. You know, so if there are more people, so just thinking about that, you know, if there are more people that thought of utilizing their communications degree towards the upliftment of Black people, you know, I think that they would quickly trade, you know, working for somebody else to do something for 28 days that's going to sustain them for
the rest of the year.
Yeah,
pretty good trade-off.
But the thing is, you have to think about it, right? And think about ways to do it. But, you know, if you're just looking at your community and your history as something to be scorned or be overlooked, you know, there are so many opportunities that are just going to pass you by, right?
So you just got to keep an open mind to it.
Yeah, you just got to keep an open mind to it and look at the positives rather than the negatives. And years ago, I looked at the positives of doing something with Black History Month, and bam, here I am.
And it's certainly grown.
Yeah.
It's certainly grown because, as you mentioned before, there are lots of people now. People have become more aware on one angle, and corporations have become more aware.
Yeah.
And I know this has led to the argument now: who's benefiting more? Are we benefiting or are corporations benefiting? What's your take on that?
Well, I think that we're benefiting from it, right? Because if you didn't have Black History Month, they wouldn't pay attention to, period, right? You know, so because they don't have a venue to reach the Black community, and you have to realize that once again the Black community has spending power, and they're they're looking for ways to access that spending power, just like they would any other ethnic group, right? So when they have the discussions about Scotiabank Caribana, and and people are complaining about, Scotiabank has their logo on Caribana. With the Chin Picnic, they have the it's called Scotiabank Chin Picnic too. Right? So it's not no conspiracy to go after the Black community. It's really about capitalism and them wanting to reach different communities, and Scotiabank Theater, right? So there's all, so we have to get out of our bubble and think that things are only about us because it's happening. They've put their logo on everything.
Yeah, stop being so scared.
Yeah, so scared. Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, if you want ownership over something, then you need to have the economic power to keep that ownership. But if you don't, then people are just going to buy it right out from under you.
I hear you. I hear you. Which also you got to come back and do a Caravana show.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love that. I've been waiting 10 years for that. I'm going to let them have it. Exactly.
I'm giving you a platform. Just run with it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my angry black man voice too, right? When I go like this.
Oh, not a man is getting us.
Yeah, right. I'll switch into my 25-year-old self when we have that discussion, right?
Oh boy.
Okay.
No, but it's. I agree with you. I think it's something that we do have a self-esteem deficiency, as I call it.
Yeah,
severe self-esteem deficiency.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think, in as much as it's Black history is good for everyone to learn, I think, unfortunately, sometimes I wonder if we're paying as much attention to it as we should.
No, we're not, because one, we've been made to feel like as if our history started with slavery and ended with Martin Luther King, and suddenly reemerged with Barack Obama, right? And then
it was dormant for a few years.
Yeah, just dormant. Between 1960, I won't even joke about that, between 1960 and Barack Obama, like people don't look at the events, with Black people and think about how it's affected us, right?
Right.
And so then with Barack Obama, once again, like missing opportunities, right? We have organizations here in Toronto that profess that they want Black people to vote, right? They want Black people to get in the political process. Barack Obama wins. You have all this surge of Black people that suddenly are interested in the political process. What do? Have dinners, right? Have dinners and celebrate, right? But and one thing and that's all they do.
Just good times.
Just good times. More food.
Nothing serious.
More food, right?
Serious.
More food and like celebrations and toasting other people's achievements. But in the meantime, there are some political areas in Toronto, as you fully well know, that the person who won only won from 1,000 votes or 200 or something. So I'm not even politically involved, but why wouldn't you, if you're interested in Black people getting involved in the political process, why don't you get 30 volunteers to just jump into that area, and prove and have a Black candidate, support them with the 30 or 40 volunteers, get so many people to vote, and have a win in that area.
Mobilize the vote.
Yeah, and showcase to the Black community, hey, we came into this community and we made a winner out of this person, and then you just duplicate that process. But instead,
it's not just about partying.
It's not just about partying. I think for me, I think that our partying days are over. And they've been extended.
It's the after party.
Yeah, it's the after party. Right? But it's almost to the point like I don't attend them anymore, right? Because it's almost like you're Cinderella. Right? Where you've purchased a gown, you purchased a carriage, but it's only going to disappear at 12 when they kick you out, right?
I hear you.
So you can be at the ROM or at the Air Canada Center, but you don't own these places.
Right. The old psychological trick.
Yeah, exactly. Like you get to pretend like you own it, for until 12:30, then before they start turning off the lights and
back to reality.
The tables. Yeah, exactly. It's back to reality, right? So
what have you learned about Black people since you started doing the poster?
What have I learned about Black people since I've been doing the poster? Okay. In general or just specifically?
In general.
You know what? I think that I would say that there's about, this is kind of a controversial thing to say, right?
Go for it.
But I would say that there's about 35 to 40% of us that really want change, and there's about 55% of us that either don't want that change to occur because we're too frightened, or and there's about, out of that 50%, there's like about 15% of those people that want things to stay exactly where they are, and they don't want Black people to move forward unless they're leading it. But if they don't lead it, they don't want it to happen. Right? And so then that's what I was.
They've got their own little agenda going.
Oh yeah, definitely. Right? I'm creating a poster and stuff, and I've literally been blocked. From getting it into school boards. Some Black and there are some Black teachers that know that I create this poster, see me, look me right in my face, and have never bought a poster, never asked their principal to purchase it from me, the whole 9 yards, right? But yet I have people from other nationalities
that are open to the concept,
that buy it consistently, right? Wow. But I can name on my hands, on my two hands, let alone probably one, the amount of black teachers who have actively bought it from me on a consistent basis, right? And you know, I think it's just symbolic of a bigger problem, right?
I hear you. You know, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back right here on What's Going On. Back on What's Going On. I'm your host, Colin Jobe, with my special guest, creator of the legacy poster, Mr. Robert Small. Yeah. Robert, we're having a really interesting chat.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're going to get to, I know you got an event coming up very soon.
Okay.
And it's going to be touching on that very interesting topic of marriage, and you're bringing up the author of Is Marriage for White People?
Yeah.
And I know you got a lot of interesting things to say.
Not about me, but you know, about the book, yeah. The book, yes, and the event, yeah.
So we're going to get into that in a minute.
Okay.
But before we do that, let's go back to the poster for a little bit. And one last question for you. In terms of the poster, who would you like to have included in your poster? Who would you like to put on that you haven't put on so far?
Well, the first person that I think of is Dudley Laws.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah, definitely. Right? You know, because really, like growing up, like I would always see himself, Charles Roach, which would be another person I'd want to put on. Right. But you know, those two kind of stick out in my mind because when I was growing up and I seen them protesting and you know standing up to police brutality and police shootings and stuff. My parents and myself, like my parents specifically would be around the TV saying, "Yeah, you go get them, Dudley," right? You know, and
just don't call me.
Yeah, they wouldn't be the type to go out there and protest themselves, right? But they would always encourage, you know, that type of activity. And I guess over the years, growing up and everything, like I felt that. You know, that type of stance towards injustices was the proper thing to do, right? You know, so when he, you know, unfortunately passed away about a year or so ago, going on now, you know, I thought that it was definitely a sad thing to happen, right? You know, because I think that it marked more his death marked more than his death as an individual. Right. But it marked the death of protest and standing up for something that you think is not against something that you think is not right.
Injustice.
Yeah, and willing to put your own personal benefits to you know at risk. Right. You know, and stuff like that. Because I think that people now, the type of protests that occur now, are over the internet, and you know you don't have. They're safe type of thing, right? You know what I would see himself and Charles Roach and you know protest again the Black Action Defense Committee in general. You know, I think that gave myself as a young 10-year-old, as a 50-year-old, a symbol of courage, right? To emulate, right? So I definitely when I put him on, right, it will definitely be better than any other poster I've made.
Interesting, excellent. So no, you know, I must say you've done a fine job, and keep up the good work. And also, folks out there, if you haven't had a chance to pick up the poster, Robert, can you let them know how they can go about getting access to it, or maybe even having you over to speak, or how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, okay, sure. And this is where I start talking slowly, right?
Sure, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, they can reach ROBERT. Bold letters underneath, right? You know, right here. Read it right here. No, they can reach me at www.thelegacyposter.com, or they can give me a call at 416-265-6428.
Excellent. Yeah. So, folks, actually, would you mind just repeating it one more time?
Yeah,
so
sure.
Folks, just in case you want them to come out to you're open to different groups.
Yeah, I do. You know, when I was out in Cape Breton and Halifax, I was doing public speaking.
Okay.
So I go to different schools and I do public speaking about Black history, and I encourage students to embrace their talents and to never give up on them. Because when I was first drawing, I was probably like 8-10 years old, and I was drawing Spider-Man, and I firmly believed that I was going to become a comic book artist, right? You know, but obviously I'm far away from that now. But I'm still in my mind, like I'm still 10 years old, doing what a 10-year-old wanted to do. Right. And that's like be home, draw, and, enjoy life, really, right? And that's definitely what I'm doing now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But with respect to my website, it's once again, it's www.thelegacyposter.com. And they can email me at rsmall005@mac.com.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, let's get right into it because I know you're telling me about this event you have coming up, and can you tell us when it's going to be on?
Yeah, it's going to be happening Friday, February 10th at the North York. At the North York Memorial Hall in Toronto, Ontario, at 5100 Yonge Street, starting at 6:30, and it's going to be the title of the event is Love Jones 3 is Marriage for White People, and we're going to be talking about with Ralph Banks, who's African American, and we're talking about relationships and marriage in general with a panel discussion of local Toronto people, and then afterwards we're going to be having Mr. Banks talk about his book and what he's found and researched. Right,
because I know the book. Let's show the listeners the book. The book has been gaining a lot of momentum.
Yeah, it has been, right?
It's been on CNN. I know Nightline did almost a whole show dedicated to it.
Yeah.
It's actually been stirring up quite a bit of discussion.
Yeah, it has.
And I know a lot of people will probably be a little taken back by the title, but from my understanding, in our community, there's been a decline in terms of marriage.
Yeah, as Mr. Banks talks about in his book, right? This decline has happened across the board, right? But it's happened more severely in the African American community.
Why do you think so?
Well, he professes that it's happened because for several different reasons. One, that with respect to black men and black women, that black women outnumber black men like 3 or 4 to 1.
Wow,
right?
There's that much of an imbalance.
Yeah, okay. Right. As with respect to numbers,
right?
But that number is still, it's still like women outnumber men. Period.
Right.
But he's just talking about black, with respect to black men and black women.
Right.
And he also mentions how that when in the States specifically, I don't think that this phenomenon has shown itself as vividly here, but with black men that if they're imprisoned, then it hampers their marketability to be a suitable mate. Right. Because that guy could be like a doctor now, but if he has a criminal record,
it's a roadblock.
It's a roadblock type of thing. So with that, and then compounded that the men who do not aspire and become something, they might be a janitor, or they might be something of a different. I
guess a lower.
Yeah, what he says is that sometimes black women marry down instead of looking outside the race for a suitable mate.
So he's actually encouraging women to. So his idea is to marry on the same level, and don't be afraid to go. You have to go outside the community to meet that level.
Yeah,
as against going down.
Yeah, as against going down, right? And the thing about it is, like, what he just mentions is that that's just an option, right? Okay. It just be based on the numbers and the issues.
And why does he feel it's so important that people be on the same economic scale?
Well, I think that in the times that I haven't finished reading the whole book, right? But I would take the thought pattern that if you be on the same scale, like in the economic times that we're in, like it's almost out of necessity that if you had an option to find someone of a similar economic scale just to survive and to prosper, right? Because if you find someone that's of a lower economic scale, financially you would be having a hard time maintaining.
Okay, maintaining your lifestyle.
You're maintaining your lifestyle. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So and then if she's earning more and she loses her job, then you're left with one income. It's a direct issue, right?
So what do you say to people who say that his whole concept is kind of like race baiting, so to speak?
Well, you know what? I don't think talking about an issue that is race based is race baiting, right? Because there are certain, I think that I take the position that you live in a capitalist society, right? And as you live in a capitalist society and live in the age of the internet, so you need to capture people's attention very quickly, so consequently, if he named this book "The Decline of Marriage Amongst African Americans," that wouldn't get him on TV, period, right? And what I've read of the book so far and everything, he doesn't say anything that is statistically or out in left field, right? It's pretty much a statement of fact, really. So with respect to, even though obviously as a black man, I wouldn't be the first one advocating for black women to go outside the race, right? But,
because he's saying she shouldn't look at you, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm still outnumbered 3-1, right? So if
so the odds are in your favor.
So even if a quarter take off, right, I'm still outnumbered, right? So there's not, and I don't think that, I don't think that that his book is going to start this wave of black women leaving black men, right? Because I think the issues, and he doesn't touch upon this in the book, as to reasons why like black women do not go out with white men in general, like are a lot deeper than any one book can solve, right? And I would throw out that, so it goes back directly to slavery till now, right? So.
Yeah, it's funny because I think it's funny when I did radio for many years. A lot of the issues that pertain to black people, the relationship issues. Everything else is an offshoot of that. And I think the issue we have to find is how we can create and stimulate and maintain good, solid, mutually beneficial relationships, because we tend to be always in a bit of a tug of war. It's, you know what I mean? It's against, let's do this as a team.
Well, but you see, my issue, this is what I say, and some people might not like me saying this, but our relationships are in trouble because I think our family unit has been disintegrated, right? So because I, when I go out with some women and stuff, like they almost seem surprised when I don't agree with them. Like they're expecting you to agree with them totally, and if you somehow don't agree, like they take it as an affront. And I think that with some women that what has happened in our family, that since there hasn't been a black male in the family, right, there's certain practical skills that have not been taught to black men and black women, right? So to black men and black women, since we haven't seen like two people negotiating certain things, or reconciling after an argument, or negotiating how
coming together for the betterment of
putting your issues over the other person, like those are skills, right? So just because you're married, you suddenly become married, like people don't throw you those skills like it's something like it's something off the shelf of a supermarket, right? That you don't become a father. Once you become a father or a mother, suddenly all these motherly instincts don't just kick in, right? Because you haven't been taught certain skills, right? So myself, for example, I never had a daughter. It was just me and my brother, right? And he's significantly older than me. He's about 6 years older than me, right? So I never had anybody below me. Right, so I never babysat anybody. I never changed anybody's diaper. I never did any of that.
You're also being spoiled, right?
Yeah, pretty much, right? And I'm continuing that until this very day, right? So basically, when I had my first daughter, it was just like, okay,
experience for you.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, well, what do I do? Like, okay, you're leaving me alone with her. Like, what's happening? And so then, like, it wasn't like I was against it, but it was just like totally new because I've never been alone with a young child before, right? So just because I became a father doesn't mean that I knew what to do, right? So with but the only thing that helped me along is that I used my father and how he acted as a reference for everything I did, right? So I said, okay, well, what would my father, in the back of my mind, I'm going, what would my father do in this instance? Okay, so if I didn't have that, I'd be basically like, lost to a certain extent. So with respect to both males and females, I think the fact that our families have been so disconnected, and there's not a father in the house and not a mother in the house and such, you know, and we haven't seen them working together as a unit. You know, that dysfunction has been passed on. You know,
it's generational.
It's generational. It's multi-generational period, right? You know, and no one can change my mind about that, because even though when people say that, you know, that a mother can raise a boy, and I said, you know, she can basically teach him how to be responsible. She can teach him to be all these other characteristics, but she can't teach him how to be a man, because she's never been a man before, right? Exactly. You know, so certain things that'll happen that she is just not aware of, because that hasn't been her experience. Right. The same way that, yeah, I could raise my daughter to be responsible, be reliable and everything, but if she hasn't seen reliability demonstrated in a woman, she has to translate that into a female body. So it's not like she's good just because I could show responsibility in fixing the car or mowing the lawn or, you know, landscaping the front yard, right? But how does that translate into a woman, or vice versa, right? You know,
there's no model there for a lot of folks.
Yeah, there's not a model there.
Right. Yeah. So what do you expect to learn from coming out to the event?
Well, I think that it's the start of a discussion, right? Okay. A discussion of like where we are with respect to as a people, like the state of our families, thinking about the history that we've embraced that might not be a positive one, right? You know, so
we're evaluating some of the beliefs and the concepts that we held for such a long time.
Yeah, exactly, right? You know, and one specific one would be the extended family and how it operated in the Caribbean, in the Toronto area, in the Toronto example, right? And how that experience translated into being in Canada. You know, so yeah, so your mom, if she lived in Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, you know, and she had, you know, 2 or 3 kids, and the father wasn't in the home, the extended family, within that community would assist, you know, in raising that child, right?
It's very difficult here in the...
Yeah, but you're not going to ask your cousin or your aunt from Mississauga to come to Ajax to look at it's not going to happen, right?
Good luck with that,
it's the same aunt that you probably had in Jamaica, right, or Barbados.
She was 2 blocks away there.
Yeah, exactly, you know, so she was in St. Peter, and so you're in St. Lucie in Barbados, in my Bayesian example, right? So a car ride, big deal, right? You know, or more than likely the neighbor would look after her. Because that babysitting isn't something that's used. You know?
So in essence, coming out is an opportunity for people to learn, to reevaluate maybe their own position.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and to hear other people's point of view concerning relationships and marriage. We're going to be having Carolyn Tingling, and she's going to be talking about the stresses of being single, and she's going to be putting it out there that maybe marriage isn't the epitome, isn't all that, right? And that maybe women should just remain single and like have, you know, a significant other and just be content with that, rather than trying to feel like marriage is something to be attained. You know, and then we have Rachel Lee Rickards, who's an actor and producer, and she writes for Sway magazine, and she's going to be coming forth and talking about some of the advice that she's been giving other people. And there's Gary and Amelia Phillips, and they own a web matchmaking service called AMillionMatches.ca, and they've been successful in getting over 75 couples coupled together, and they interview them individually.
Excellent.
You know, before that happens.
Great. Well, you know, I just want to say thanks for coming out, folks. If you get a chance, check out Robert. Robert, your website again?
Yep, it's www.thelegacyposter.com.
Alrighty, and also if they're interested in the event coming up, they can get tickets?
Yeah, they can get tickets online through my website, or they can call me at 416-265-6428. Great.
Well, folks, that concludes another episode of What's Going On. Want to thank you, Robert. Pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Always.
Yeah, exactly.
Come back again. We got some more things to talk about.
Yeah, definitely a lot. You know, Carabana, remember, right? Yeah, exactly.
He's got some interesting ideas, folks. Believe me, he does.
Unless there's corporate sponsors, right? That's going to be compromised. But anyways.
I hear you. Anyway, thanks again, folks. Hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. And stay tuned for another episode right here on Remake TV. Take care.